All right. We actually scored today quite well because we are actually going to be responding to the lesser Shapiro, Ben, during this segment. We're going to be responding to the significantly more pleasant to watch for no particular reason, Shapiro, Abby Shapiro in this segment. In fact, Abby Shapiro has 5 lies the left tells women that make her furious. She wants to tell us about. And frankly, I could not be more excited to find out what lies the left tells about women, or tells to women, I guess, that make her upset. Now, here's what my theory about this video is going to be. Wait, actually, I feel like I should give a little bit of insight into who Abby Shapiro is. So, Abby Shapiro's career was entirely astroturfed. Like, it's actually terrifying how astroturfed her career was. So the only claim to fame she had was being Ben Shapiro's sister. And then Ben Shapiro started using his money from the Daily Wire, which I'm pretty sure he runs and owns, to start getting Abby Shapiro a actual platform in politics. And the way that he achieved getting her an audience was to, instead of doing it the natural way and having her, make videos and grow a channel and just, network and get shout outs and stuff. Instead, Daily Wire, by that I mean Ben, pays for her videos to run as advertisements non-stop for everybody for like 6 fucking months. Who remembers that? Who remembers when you could not escape the Abby Shapiro ads? The Daily Wire would just... Because there's a thing with YouTube where you can literally just pay to turn one of your YouTube videos into an ad that anyone can click on. I could literally just pay like $10K to run my, like, any YouTube video of my choosing that they screen and say yes to, that YouTube is okay with, as a YouTube ad for like a week or something. I don't know how much it actually is, but yeah. And that is what the Daily Wire did for Abby Shapiro for 6 straight months. And you could tell that her growth was completely astroturf because her videos would have lots of views, but would be massively dislike bombed. And all of the comments on her videos would just be, why the fuck are these videos... Why do I keep getting these videos as ads? Why the fuck do I keep getting these as ads? What the fuck? I hate this. Get this out of my recommended YouTube. What the fuck? And all of it was just people complaining. Until Abby Shapiro actually managed to grow a genuine, real conservative audience, which she now has. But let's be completely clear, it was money and astroturfing that got her to where she is now. She did not grow her platform organically as any other content creator would. It was possibly the most shameless and evident examples of bias and money getting somebody into a position of prominence I've ever seen. It was actually pretty wild. Anyway... let's hear what she has to say. What lies do the left tell women? My theory is I haven't pre-watched this, by the way. Here's what I think she's gonna say. The left tells women that they're weak and they aren't strong unless they pursue a job in a STEM field, and that motherhood and getting married is weakness. They tell women that, like, getting abortions is bodily freedom when in reality it's murder. The left tells women that they have to be sexually liberated. They have to, like, show off their bodies in order to be sexually liberated and feel free and empowered, but this is actually objectifying about, like, it's gonna be some pseudo-turf nonsense is what we're about to get. Those are my 3 big things. I honestly would not be surprised if I just actually listed 3 of the 5 things she's going to complain about in this video. All right, back to it.
Hello, Classic Crew, and welcome to today's video, where we're going to be talking about 5 things the left tells women that make me furious.
Oh.
If you are new to my channel, here we talk about classic living and traditional values, and I would love if you would consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. If you'd like to get access to a ton of exclusive content, including my book club, my movie club, as well as weekly exclusive articles, make sure to head over to Classic.
Abby. You can't do the whole, like, we talk about conservative, traditional life values when 99% of people in the political space know about her as Ben Shapiro's sister with Big Milky. Big Milky. That's how like half of people in the political space think of her. And yes, it's a bit misogynistic, but it's just funny to me that she makes all these videos about being like a traditional conservative woman, but like everybody on the internet is like, big milkers. I always found it really silly.
classicallyabby.substack.com. In today's video, I want to talk about 5 things that the left tells women that just make me mad. I saw this on another person's channel. They did this thing where it was like 5 things in their field that make me furious, and I thought that was super fun. And I've got something.
Damn, copying other YouTubers. No, I'm just kidding.
Things that make me furious, so I'm ready to talk about it. Not happy? Let's get into it. Number 1. Why does the left insist on telling women that sex with random people is empowering?
I was close. I was really close. I said the left tells women that showing off their bodies is empowering, is the only way to be empowering, was one of the examples I gave. Okay. Does the left really describe women, like, having casual hookups as empowering? I think it's more so the option of being able to do that like the left or feminists would generally consider to be empowering. Because in a conservative world, women would not be allowed to like have any actual sexual freedom, especially not when it comes to like, you know, hooking up with like multiple partners. It's just not a thing that conservatives would allow in their world. And you know this when they talk about like hookup culture and like the idea of casual sex, they hate it and want to ban it. They're actively trying to ban it in some red states. So it's not so much it is empowering to do it. It's more so, you know, it's empowering to have the option. You know what this reminds me of? It's kind of like how conservatives will try to strawman the left and say that feminists claim that getting an abortion is empowering. No feminist believes this. No woman believes that getting an abortion is an empowering experience. Fighting for the right to be able to have that option, though, is certainly, in fact, an empowering thing. But the right will try to strawman this to try to make what she knows her conservative audience thinks is bad look like something the left considers virtuous. That is the point of this argument.
It's just not. Having sex with one man who loves you, respects you, wants to have a family with you, that's empowering. That's pretty awesome. Because you want to know what's really empowering is a guy who loves you enough to want to make you feel good, as opposed to a guy who wants to have a one-night stand and is looking for his own pleasure.
Do these videos get any views? I'm actually curious. Whoa, okay, no they don't. Holy crap. 6K, 6.5K, 5.2K, 3.3K, 4.7K, 2.5K. Okay, she has like 35,000 more subscribers than me and gets half my viewership. And uploads like on her videos and also uploads like 1/10 as much as I do. Oh my god. How much money did Ben spend to run her videos as ads on YouTube for people? Like, it must have been a lot of money. And she's like squandering this massively astroturfed like career opportunity so massively. Like, listen, all she has to do is wear a tank top and talk about cringe woke TikTokers. Million subs easy. I'm sorry. I listen, conservative Ben Shapiro fans would fucking flock to her channel like termites, like locusts to a fresh green field of crops if she just wore a tank top and just made fun of TikTokers in her videos. It just easy million subs, easy 2.5 million views per video, easy clap, easy landing, easy win. I'm not even kidding right now. That is just the biggest business opportunity ever, just right there in front of her.
Have you considered that? That a guy who is devoted to you, who loves you, who's going to spend his life with you, cares whether or not you are having fun. A guy who is never going to see you again cares if he is having fun.
You know what's so like disappointing about this video? It's that it's boring. You see, the right was so effective, particularly back during Gamergate, because the average Zoomer's conception of the right was like a boring, prude, usually like old man who is behind on the times, didn't understand memes, didn't understand jokes, technology, or internet culture, and tended to like hate video games and think of them as like violent things causing kids to do mass shootings and stuff. Like, that was the conception that a lot of young people pre-Gamergate had in their mind of conservatives. The right did a fantastic job during that time of rebranding itself as looking cooler. Instead of being people like Abby Shapiro talking about how casual sex and sleeping around is like bad and disempowering, instead the largest conservative figures, just like right now, were people who talk about how much like pussy they get. Like, yeah, bro, I'm out there plowing pussy. These bitches love my dick, bro. I'm gonna show you how to make these women like listen to what you say. I'm gonna teach you how to control these women. Like, that's the kind of stuff from conservative commentators that became really popular. Not the prudish conservative, you need to find a stable, monogamous relationship and have kids and all that. Like, that got popular with some, like, God-pilled, white-pilled, like, traditionalist types that fell down that rabbit hole. But for the most part, the vast majority of conservatives, like Milo Yiannopoulos, as a pillow in chat said, were, very much trying to rebrand conservatism as a cool and hip thing, when in reality, this is what it looks like. And what Abby Shapiro is doing that is actually kind of kneecapping conservatism right now is just kind of letting the mask slip on how miserable, gray, and boring the conservative way of life truly is. Now, I'm not saying it's bad if this is what you prefer and you choose to pursue, but for me at least, like, the idea of, like, oh my god, can you imagine? I could only imagine if I'd, like, gotten married to my high school sweetheart. What a nightmare that would have been if I'd gotten her pregnant and, like, was married to her and, like, oh god. It's, like, the type of shit that gives me nightmares. The shit that keeps you up at night that is literally nightmarish is the conservative dream world, where you're, like, forced to marry the girl that you dated in high school because you had sex in your car and you weren't allowed to get condoms because they were banned by the Religious Freedom Act of 2024. And you got her pregnant, but abortions were banned by the Religious Freedom Act of 2023. And so now you're stuck raising this kid, and you're stuck. Like, this is the future that conservatives have laid out. This is their dream. And people like Abby Shapiro are really bad at not letting the mask slip on that.
Fun. Which is more empowering? Which is more empowering? A situation where if you got pregnant, the guy was ready and willing to have children with you, is excited about it, wants to be the father of your children, or having sex with a guy who would absolutely panic if you...
So basically, the argument from Abby Shapiro here is presumes that we live in a world in which people like her have their way when it comes to sexual health. So the idea is that, like, she's arguing that in their world, if you have casual sex, you won't be able to have a condom or an abortion or morning after pill or Plan B or birth control, and that all of these things would be banned and not an option. And so casual sex would almost always immediately lead to pregnancy and thus, a baby-locked marriage. And so she's arguing that that is why casual sex would be bad. But casual sex would not be bad for these reasons in a world where having a child is a 0% chance result if you have sex and do not want to have a child because of it. That would not be a problem and not a concern when it comes to having a hookup or one-night stand. But Abby Shapiro presumes that there is some aspect of having a hookup or one-night stand that should include the guy. Like, it wouldn't be... Listen, the reason why people have hookups and one-night stands is because it's fun and they like having sex, not because they're looking for a partner that's, like, fulfilling. Like, I assure you, the sex from the guy who's good at having sex is going to be more fun than the sex from the guy who I guess you assume is going to be a better father. There's a different objective out here when it comes to people who are, like, particularly women who are seeking out casual sex here. You're not speaking to the right demographic.
You told him that you were pregnant and that this would be a big problem. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons that having sex with...
Okay, I don't think the average woman cares that the guy that she hooked up with at the bar would be horrified to find out he got her pregnant. She wouldn't want to be pregnant either, most likely, because she is in the habit of having fun, casual hookups. This is not even a good argument for the position she's trying to make from the conservative worldview.
People outside of marriage is not empowering. It's easy to convince yourself and lie to yourself and say, well, I like sex. So if I like sex, then it must be empowering for me to get it however I want it.
Yeah.
No, that's just wrong. And it's stupid.
Please explain how it's stupid. Could you give me... please don't leave it at, it's just stupid. Because I feel like she's just going to leave it at, it's stupid.
Having sex with the person that you have chosen to build a life with, because, you know, sex is not just any other physical activity. It is a unique one. It is a special one that you share with one person, and that can lead to the creation of a baby.
She did actually make an argument, but it was a stupid one. What about sex is special, other than it can lead to the creation of a baby? In our world, we want to have the option of sex where it doesn't lead to a creation of a baby, with, you know, the option of sexual protection, you know, like condoms, birth control, morning after pill, abortions, etc., right? Like, it feels good, but, like, feeling a nice cool breeze on a hot day also feels good. Like, when I'm, like, sweaty as fuck and overheated, and I walk outside and, like, a nice cool breeze hits me, I make a noise not too dissimilar to the noise I make when I come. Think about it. The only reason why Abby Shapiro is saying that it's special is because of her religious bias. Now, I'm not going to argue that there isn't anything about special about sex in most people's minds. To a lot of people, there is. We have socialized ourselves to be that way. Our society has socialized us to consider sex a very, very big deal, a very huge, monumental thing. It's not, though. Everybody who actually, like, loses their virginity immediately realizes, oh, it's not that big a deal. Why was I so obsessed with this for so long? Not to mention the way, yeah, exactly, a pillow. The way that our society, or I should say the way that society, period, any human society, has considered, like, sex and how they, like, consider proper, like, moral sex to happen has changed a lot. So, for example, if we go back to ancient America, like the America 1, aka the Roman Empire, the Romans were fucking each other, having gay sex, three-ways, orgies, straight sex. In public, they were doing voyeurism. They were fucking in bathhouses. They were shitposting on walls. Like, they were literally writing on walls random stuff. Like, I shat here 3 times was an actual piece of ancient, like, Roman, I believe? It might have been Greek. Ancient Roman graffiti that was found by archaeologists. It said, I shat here well 3 times. That was a real piece of graffiti. Okay? Literal ancient shit posting. I saw a video about it recently. Regardless, though, this perception that we ought to consider sex this sacred act, like a sacred thing, you know, like there's shaking someone's hand, like that's human contact, but then there's sex. Now that's like your souls are like connecting. This is a conservative religious idea. It is very much a religious idea. Is there an emotional, intimate connection that can happen in sex? Absolutely. Is it like a life-altering, soul-connecting, like, spiritual thing? No, it is not. This argument is driven entirely by religious belief.
Yeah, keep that in marriage. Enjoy it with the person who loves you and cares about you. And stop treating sex like something you can do willy-nilly, because you shouldn't, and you can't. And the left is...
By the way, she's arguing insert thing... Okay, she is arguing casual sex is not empowering. Now allow me to tell you why... Like, she's not even telling or explaining why casual sex is bad now. She's literally judgmentally ordering women that watch her videos not to have casual sex. Definitely, like, I'm not saying casual sex is empowering, but what definitely isn't empowering is taking orders from this lady and molding your sexual, like, your love life, I guess, around what this random YouTube lady says is most healthy.
Is doing women a real disservice by trying to convince them that sex outside of marriage with everybody and anybody is empowering. It's not. I've got quite a few videos on my channel about this, so if you are interested in hearing more,
I have a feeling they don't have a lot of views either.
check them out. But yeah, that's number one, and it makes me furious.
You're
Number
not
two,
built for this.
shout your abortion. Get an abortion. Have an abortion rather than have a baby. It is.
All right, well, there we go. I predicted this one. It's not hard to predict what these people are going to say. Nothing about what they believe. Say what you want about conservatives, they are consistent. Not in that their worldview is consistent, it's actually very inconsistent and stupid. That's like inherent to conservatism. They themselves and what they believe and argue is pretty consistent. Like, I just sort of imagined what would the average conservative commentator from like Gamergate say. Well, they would say some shit about how the left says that abortions empower women. Okay, that's probably a pretty fair guess going into this. Like, these people are very predictable and stupid. So once you've, like, done this long enough, you can pretty accurately guess what they're going to say. It's not hard. It's really not hard. Like, you really do start to get to understand these people's brains inside and out. It's one of the biggest reasons why I'm so good at, like, predicting where culture is heading, is because I'm really good at seeing it what the normies think and what the conservatives think. I'm really good at analyzing their propaganda, cutting through the words, and figuring out what sentiment is at the core of it, and where that sentiment comes from, and where that sentiment will probably go, and how it's going to be affected by future cultural events that are inevitably going to happen. And I feel like that's one of the, not unique, but one of the things that I do often on my stream that people notice a lot and say I have some clairvoyant ability. No, it's just me kind of like, having been looking at conservative propaganda for a while, having once been a conservative, knowing what is being appealed to with their propaganda, it makes it a lot easier to pick it apart and predict what they're going to say, what they're going. I know how these people try to please their audience. I know what they're going to say to try to fool their audience into thinking they're going to make a good point. That's really what it is at the end of the day.
It's good for women to have the option to murder their child so that they can pursue their careers.
No, we're just presupposing that abortion is murder, by the way. No argument as to whether or not it is, just complete presupposition here. There's a reason why these videos don't do very well, and it's because she's not really good at, like, engaging with basic lefty arguments, you know? Like, she can't even straw man the left well, you know? That's why these videos aren't popping off in the same way that, say, Ben's videos do.
No, that's wrong. None of that is true. And this makes me so mad. Because number one, it's murder. Okay. Get that off the table. Number two.
Yep, okay, sure, yeah, all right, I guess so. It's murder now. I am curious if she, like, how she would respond to the violinist analogy. For those who don't know, PhilosophyTube basically popularized a very, very good analogy for when it comes to the ethics of whether or not abortion is murder. The argument completely cedes the idea that a fetus at any stage of development is a human life. Let's get that argument off the table. Who cares? All right, sure, yeah. Let's say the fetus at any stage of development, from like zygote that has just been fertilized to being born tomorrow is a life. Sure, let's cede that. The violinist analogy basically centers around, well, ironically enough, in the skit, it's Ben Shapiro, or a Ben Shapiro stand-in, arguing about how abortion is murder, it's bad, and under no circumstances should somebody be able to, take a life in favor of their own comfort, right? And the skit continues. And we see this Ben Shapiro character, this Ben Shapiro-inspired character, walk out to his car in the parking lot to, go home. but he gets knocked out in the parking lot and wakes up in a dingy hospital room somewhere. And he finds he's been hooked up, chained up, and then hooked up via tubes and other medical equipment to a mortally wounded man lying in a hospital bed next to him. In walks the surgeon, who explains, "I'm a big fan of your show, and I saw your segment today about abortion, how no one should ever be able to take a human life for their own comfort, and I completely agree. And that's why I've brought you here. This man next to you is the greatest violinist to ever live. Like, this guy is he is the greatest violinist ever. He got into a car accident and he is dying. Without you acting as a living blood bag for him for the next 9 months, he will die and the world will be deprived of all of the great things he will bring into it." One of the biggest arguments Ben Shapiro likes to make is, what if the baby you abort is the next Mozart? So that's where this part of the analogy comes from. Obviously the Ben Shapiro stand-in is like, what the fuck? No, unhook me from this guy. I'm not staying chained up to this guy, keeping him alive for the next 9 months. And the surgeon argues, well, the man needs your body and your blood to survive. What right do you have to cut off your bodily functions from him to keep him alive? That would be terminating his life. That would be murder to do such a thing. Which it would be by conservative logic. This is analogous. People try to say it isn't, but it really is analogous. When you are a mother, in this instance, you have another human being inside of you that is reliant on your bodily functions to survive. And your bodily autonomy has to be impeded on by the fetus's existence in order for it to live, which basically means you are forced by the state. If you can't get an abortion, you are being forced by the state to turn your body into essentially an incubator, a house, a living space for another human being against your will for 9 straight months. Not too dissimilar to this analogy. And the analogy continues with the Ben Shapiro stand-in desperately trying to argue for an excuse to get out of this, but, well, the video starts with a clip of Ben Shapiro making arguments that would literally classify him as a murderer if he decided that he didn't want to be hooked up to this guy anymore. So basically, the arguments conservatives try to use to claim that abortion is murder, like, it just doesn't work with their weird pseudo-libertarian, pro-bodily autonomy, pro-freedom, and pro-human rights position they try to front to the public. In reality, in their world, they would take away the bodily autonomy of every potential mother and take away from them the option of not having a little human use their bodily functions to survive against their will for 9 months minimum. Or maximum, I guess. Or, well, about 9 months.
No woman is better off for killing her child. Women can tell themselves that they are. They can tell themselves that they're better off for having killed their child so that they could have a more stable life. But women who abort their children know that it's a child. They know. And it's their...
Yeah, damn, you left-wing destroyed. Amazing argumentation. I won't argue with the fact that a lot of women who get abortions are, like, not regretful of it, but are sad about it, right? It's not that they regret it or wouldn't do it if they could do it over again. It is a sad thing. Most women who have to get abortions, by the way, have to for medical reasons. Like, most women who get pregnant don't let the fetus mature to the point of them having to get an abortion. Like, usually that, like, obviously it takes about 6+ weeks to realize that you are pregnant because, you know, you have to, oh, wait, did I miss a period? Or is this just a normal period miss? Or, like, it is, like, you don't even really see symptoms or anything until, like, 6 weeks. Which is when, believe it or not, a lot of conservatives try to set the barrier for when you can get an abortion, when the vast majority of women realize they're pregnant. that like area. They want to essentially make it banned, and that's the best way to do it, is to say, well, you still have 2 weeks, or you still have 6 weeks to get the abortion. Well, most women don't even know they're pregnant until after 6 weeks. So, and that's like a well-known stat. Anyway, it's like saying you're not allowed to eat. It would be like if they made chicken that was fully cooked illegal to eat in America. Like if it just straight up they were like, chicken that is fully cooked is now illegal in America. It's like, but you can't eat undercooked chicken. You're just, if undercooked chicken is still legal, then you're essentially just, like, chicken's now just illegal functionally. Like, no one can eat undercooked chicken. You'll get salmonella and die. So you're just basically functionally banning chicken. And you just don't want to say you want to ban chicken entirely. So you're just kind of banning chicken, but in a way that functionally makes it completely banned. Or mostly banned. Do you guys understand what I'm saying here with what conservatives try to do when it comes to abortion rights?
Their baby. And they're doing something harmful not only to another person, but to themselves. Why don't we encourage women to embrace their natural strength as mothers and tell them that they can do this thing that seems so scary?
Listen, chat, if Florida was a bluer state when my mom got pregnant with me, I would not be here with you all today. And yet, I am still pro-choice. All right? The whole, like, the moralized, like, what if the baby could have been yada, or the baby could have been blah blah argument does not work, okay? One's bodily comfort, one's, like, not even one's life, one's right to exist is not dependent and should never be dependent on the bodily autonomy of another person. Someone else's right to live should not be, like, enforced by the state if the consequence is somebody else's bodily autonomy. Like, by that I mean, like, literally their body is the consequence. You know, that being taken away is the consequence. It's not a good thing.
Instead of telling them that they just can't handle it and this isn't the right time, they should just get rid of this human that was put into their care by themselves, presumably, because in 99% of cases, women who get pregnant and want an abortion, it was because they had sex of their own volition and then were like, oh, whoops, another reason why sex is not empowering. This is just a...
So not only is that not true, just objectively, the vast majority of women who get abortions do not get abortions because they, like, had sex and then it's like, whoops, we had a baby, oopsie. That is not where the, like, so the reason for that is most people that don't want to have a baby will usually use some form of birth control birth control. Some form of birth control that is, like, somewhat effective, like pretty effective, right? So usually, like, if you're a responsible couple and you don't want to have a kid, chances are you're using, like, morning after pill. If you suspect something might have happened, like the condom broke or like the pull-out game wasn't on point, birth control pills, condoms, maybe even like a vasectomy or whatever. Vasectomies can fail and undo themselves, apparently. So with all that said, generally, if you're going to have an abortion, it's because one of these things failed, which usually means that you are, that's a very small percentage of people. The majority of abortions are from people that have to get them for medical reasons, unviable pregnancy, rape, incest, or because they were in, like, an abusive situation where they were forced to, like, get pregnant and then they got out of the relationship and now they want to get an abortion because they weren't able to before because of the pressure of a partner. That's generally, like, the most common causes, and that last example is very rare itself. There is not an epidemic of women, like, the conservative stereotype is that, like, women, like, the average lefty woman, like, goes out on a Friday night and has sex with, like, 5 black dudes, which they consider to be a bad thing, remember. Has sex with, like, 5 black dudes in that night, gets pumped full of cum, and then goes to bed, wakes up in the morning, pre-bake, smokes some weed, and then goes to the local Planned Parenthood to have the babies sucked out of them and ground up in a blender. That is, and then of course the punch card. And then of course as she's walking out, the lady at the reception desk at the Planned Parenthood, gives a little hole in her punch card, and it's like, every third abortion is free. Like that is unironically the world conservatives think we live in. When they talk about abortion, that is the medical procedure and I guess institution, quote unquote, that they are imagining when they say abortion. They just think there's these hordes of quote unquote dumb lefty bimbo bitches that are going out there and getting pregnant every month and getting abortions. Just yada yada, time for my monthly abortion. Like that's genuinely the world they think we live in.
Horrible.
It's why they would go outside of Planned Parenthoods and assault the women going inside that were pregnant, if they were visibly pregnant, because they would just assume the women were going in there to get an abortion, even though the vast majority of services Planned Parenthood provides are actually prenatal care. Most women going to Planned Parenthoods are going there to make sure their pregnancy continues healthily and well and the baby is viable and a healthy birth. And yet, it was a notorious problem of conservative men hanging out outside of Planned Parenthoods to assault and berate any woman that tries to go in there, because they believe these women are just murderers.
A lie that the left has perpetrated against women, that abortion is the best option, or a good option, or an option at all.
I like how she cycled through 3 positions that are completely, not, one of them is correct, and 2 of them are wrong. And she cycled through all 3 of them. So the first one is, the left tells women that abortion is the best option. Objectively not true. The second one is, the left tells women that abortion is a good option. Also not true. Generally, it is and then the final one is, and the left tells women that abortion is an option. All 3 of these things are untrue. The left typically tells women, if they do tell women anything, that abortion is an unfortunate but necessary option that needs to exist for women that have no choice but to seek it out. It is not a happy thing, a joyful thing, or a casual thing, but a very unfortunate last resort to many other barriers of birth control, usually the result of, pregnancy termination is usually done because of rape and incest and other bad stuff happening. It's not a willy-nilly time to get my hole punched for my weekly abortion because I just love casual, irresponsible, unprotected sex. That is how these people try to frame women that get abortions, and it's really disgusting.
Abortion is wrong. It's bad for women. It hurts them. And I truly am furious about this.
Stay mad.
Number 3.
Are you even smart?
Fulfill your potential. Fulfill your potential, ladies.
Wait, did I list as one of my examples that the left tells women they have to pursue STEM fields instead of getting married and having is that what she's about to do? Did I get another one correct? Did I get another fucking... I mean, listen, it's not that hard, guys. It really isn't that hard.
You can't fulfill your potential unless you get out of the house. How are you going to show how smart you are unless you have an amazing career?
I swear to God, I didn't pre-watch this. I am just this good at predicting what these people will say. They're just that stupid. I swear I did not pre-watch this at all.
I hate that. I hate that. Why can't a woman fulfill her potential at home raising her children? What does potential even mean? Why do I have to prove my potential to people who think of me as replaceable, rather than fulfilling my potential to the little humans I am raising who I literally could not be replaced? I was made to be their mother. They cannot replace me as their mother.
So basically the argument she's trying to make is that women pursuing out of the home STEM field type jobs is bad. She's not arguing that the left says motherhood is bad, because the left doesn't say this. The left does not demonize motherhood, okay? If anything, the left probably, like glorifies motherhood more than the right does, you know? Like, go around to any left-wing space where they do mutual aid, and they will talk about how their priority when it comes to providing mutual aid is helping, number one, kids that don't have any like minors that don't have any like adult support. Number two, mothers who need help raising their kids. Like, go to any Twitter account or website for a left-wing mutual aid organization. Those are their two top priorities for help, like groups to help. Kids that have been disowned, usually LGBT kids, and like mothers that are single moms that don't have the means to like help kids. Like, if anything, the left draws attention to and raises awareness for mothers that need, most of left-wing talking points are centered around families, mothers not being able to afford health care and other like vital services for their kids. The left does not demonize motherhood, okay? No one demonizes motherhood. Nobody. Nobody realistically is demonizing motherhood except for anti-natalists, maybe. And most of you are going to have to Google that to even know what that is. With that said, this is just a lie. It's just a lie. The left does not demonize motherhood. It is simply... The left simply glorifies opportunity. The ideal world for the left is that everybody gets to have a choice of how they want to live their lives. If you're like Abby Shapiro and you want to live the trad wife life, you can. But what you won't be able to do, which is what Abby Shapiro really wants to be able to do, is force other people to live that lifestyle too. Other people will be allowed to live their lives and live them as they please, as long as it doesn't hurt other people, objectively speaking. She'd argue that like lefty women like living their lives how they wish does hurt society and does hurt people, but it doesn't. Would be able to do what they want. And that is the world that someone like Abby Shapiro is afraid of. A world of freedom and opportunity and choice. That is the world that conservatives fear like none other. Because if we even had a world like that for a moment, people would realize it's possible, it's achievable. And the idea that like the world the left wants to achieve is like a pipe dream is all that keeps conservatives going, right? Like, conservatives rely really, really strongly on the world that the left wants, like on spreading the idea that the world wants to make is a fantasy that's unachievable. The only reason it's a fantasy that's unachievable is because of the right. The people who claim that it is an unachievable fantasy. Kind of starting to see what the issue is now.
So why do we tell women that the only way that they can fulfill their potential is outside of the home, in a job, in a career? I hate that.
This is just not true. I'm actually going to speed up the video a little bit because she's very rambly and not succinct at all with her speaking.
Kind of language, because it makes it as though if you stay at home, you have failed or you're not living up to how smart you are. Like, what are you talking about? The most important thing you can do is build a home and build your family. Like, why do we make it so that women have to show off that they have done something that is visibly...
This is all just a straw man. I don't really know what I'm supposed to say here. Motherhood is good. Also, choosing to become a NASA scientist is also good. That's what the left believes. The left just wants women to have more opportunity to pursue the path they most like. Because right now, most women are kind of banking on, like, all right, pretty soon out of high school, I gotta find a pretty wealthy, well-off, promising guy to marry to make sure that I, don't end up homeless and fucked over, because, women aren't generally pushed into getting college degrees and like pursuing like STEM fields and high-paying jobs. Like, conservatives love to talk about how the wage gap isn't real and it's actually an earnings gap. That earnings gap exists for a reason. We socialize women not to want to, well, not necessarily not to want to, but not to really have as much of an opportunity to pursue fields that generally yield higher income. And that's one of the things that Abby Shapiro wants to continue to push.
Fulfilling their potential.
She would see that wage gap grow even wider, that earnings gap grow even wider, because that earnings gap growing wider means that women as a demographic have less money and less social power, and women having less social power means they're more dependent on men demographically speaking, for their needs. So when women weren't allowed to work, which is what the right would ban women from working and voting if they could. When women couldn't vote or work, what could you do if you were a woman growing up in America? You couldn't work, so you couldn't make money to pay bills, to buy a house. You couldn't own land. You couldn't own a business. You couldn't go to school in some cases. Like, what can you do? Nothing. Except get married to the best guy you can find, a guy who is good enough, and settle and live with it. And keep that guy happy, because if you don't, he might divorce you, and then you might be homeless and you might die. That is the world conservatives like Abby Shapiro want for women.
And it's like, if any person can be a mother because you don't need a degree to get pregnant and have a baby, then there's no credit given to the women who do motherhood well, who like care about it and really put in effort. I hate that kind of language. No. You fulfill your potential by just being a good.
She talks like Ben Shapiro, but like coming from Ben Shapiro, it sounds like condescending, like what's the word for it? Like condescending, smarty pants nerd speak. So he sounds smart when he talks like this, but when his sister talks like this, she just sounds like a rambling mean girl. It's really interesting to see how our gendered biases can be affected when you see like a brother and sister who look very similar, believe the same things, and speak the same way, how we perceive the way they speak differently simply because the gender is different.
Person by being a good mother. You don't have to get this high-powered career to prove you're smart, or to prove you're ambitious, or to prove you did a good job. Stupid. I hate that. Number 4.
Love yourself, ladies.
Be body positive.
Oh, here's what I didn't predict. Here's what she's going to say. That the left glorifies unhealthy body types and tells overweight women that it's fine to be morbidly obese because they put like overweight women on like the covers of magazines for like swimsuits and sports magazines, and they show overweight women in ads for sports gear, and the left is glorifying being overweight and unhealthy, and body positivity and always loving yourself is really unhealthy. That's what she's going to say. Guarantee it. I know exactly how these fucking people speak.
I hate this language. Okay, so here's my issue with this whole body positivity
Let's hear
movement,
it.
and I've talked about this a lot. So, number 1, we encourage women to love their bodies, but not loving their bodies where they're at and for what they do, while also encouraging them to be healthy and lose weight or gain weight if needed. Like, we encourage people to love their bodies where they're at, and that's beautiful. But really, it's very unhealthy, and it doesn't encourage women to actually get to a healthy place with their bodies. And at the same time, we encourage women to be immodest all the time. Like, we put women in direct competition with each other by encouraging people to dress in a way.
How does this work? So the left simultaneously glorifies unhealthy, overweight physiques, but also glorifies women looking like Instagram models? Wow, she goes right in. Is she going to try to argue that? Okay, let's see what we see.
That shows off their entire bodies. Like, a fashion trend was a bra last season, and you're just supposed to wear a bra out. And it's like, oh no, we're body positive because fat women.
Does she mean like a sports bra? Like a sports bra that you'd exercise in? Like the kind that's like, not, maybe I'm wording it wrong, but like, it's technically a bra, but it's more like a really high cut tank top. It's not like revealing, it looks more like workout clothes. Like, it kind of goes up like this. It's more, they tend to be shaped like, they're not super revealing or anything. How the fuck am I supposed to do cardio with a shirt on? Yeah, like, like women are jogging outside wearing sports bras all the time, at the gym wearing sports bras all the time. It's typically the most common, besides like maybe a basic tight, like, workout shirt, the most common women's workout shirt, because, women tend to have big milkers that might kind of cause a problem when you're trying to work out. So having a nice compressing, supportive, yet I guess not according to Abby Shapiro, but I would still say pretty modest, and still like, comforting piece of workout wear. Like, she's just complaining about workout clothes right now.
Women and skinny women and curvy women and boyish women can all wear these things, and they should all wear these things. Who's gonna look better in these things? Come on. Why are we putting people in?
The left tells people to be accepting of their bodies, but then also tells them to wear exposing clothes. So who's gonna look better instead exposing clothes? I mean, come on, guys. That is her argument. We have truly reached peak conservative thought.
In direct competition with each other by encouraging them to expose their bodies when we're also telling them, like, love where you're at, you're so beautiful. We're not blind. People are smart. We can tell what's a healthier body than another. And by exposing everything and encouraging people to expose everything, we're only doing a disservice to everybody. It's so stupid. I'm so against the immodesty of our culture.
It feels like she's having a breakdown right now. She hasn't made a argument that's like based on reality enough for me to respond to it in like 20 seconds.
A lot of reasons, but like this is one reason that I hate, because it's so, these two things are paradoxical and they act like they're not, but they are. It's upsetting. On top of which, I mean, the whole idea that you have to expose yourself to show that you're confident is so stupid. You can be confident in your modesty. I cover up because I love my body and I respect it, and I only want to share it with one person who will show it the respect it deserves. Why do you?
Okay. She's just commenting on basic socialization here. It is not a left-wing idea that somebody who's pretty open, like in showing off their body, is probably confident, and somebody who covers it up a lot is probably pretty modest and like shy about their body and not very, and maybe even ashamed. Like, does she really think it's like a left-wing idea that people who are like, that tend to dress revealingly and show off their body a lot are tended to assume to be confident, while the vice versa is assumed to be less confident? Does she genuinely think that's a left-wing idea, or is maybe that like a assumption that we've been able to make since like high school, because that's how we're socialized to think, because our society has sort of like heavily pushed sexualization on women, and so if women don't dress in that way, then we just kind of assume that they must be hiding something. Same goes for guys. If guys dress in a way that covers up their physique, we assume they must be hiding, that they're like overweight or super skinny or whatever. Like, that's just kind of how we're socialized. It's not a left-wing idea.
You get access, stranger on the internet, to my body, and you don't care a lick about me. Like, no, we're not doing that. The body positivity movement, the immodesty of our era, like, I hate it. Just dress in a way that is attractive, not attracting, that gives people an opportunity to see your personality and doesn't make people focus on your boobs. Give people an opportunity to
I say nothing.
exercise and get healthy and well. Yeah. Last but not least is number 5. Women don't need no man. I was talking to Jacob about this because this concept bothers me so much.
Okay. She is going to strawman the left's actual position on this. This is what the left actually believes. The right, or I guess I'll just say what the left believes without saying what the right believes. The left believes that women should have the opportunity to basically pursue a life very much like a guy can, right? So as a guy, I have never once thought about how I need to get into a relationship with a woman who has a bright future, or my life is fucked. Never once has that thought crossed my mind as a man. And yet I have no doubt that to many women watching right now, particularly cis women, the idea that you need to get an MRS degree. Hypers in chat, if you know what an MRS degree is. There's a word for the sentiment I'm talking about right now. There's a word to describe, like, people came up with a word for this because the sentiment is so common. An MRS degree means married. It's when a woman goes to college and finds a guy who has good grades and seems like he has a bright future and starts dating and fucking him in college. So when he graduates, they're already together and, it's basically a clean line to marriage and a pretty much set life. That is what the MRS degree is. There's a term for it. Essentially, the left wants there to be a path for women to just kind of live a life, choosing to be single and doing their own things, or doing their own thing, completely fine, just as easily as a man can. And men choose to do this all the time. I mean, at this point, there's a whole movement around MGTOW, men going their own way, men just living their lives and just, living the single bachelor life or whatever, pretty much. Like, women typically don't get the luxury of living the bachelor lifestyle because we don't usually orient women towards high-earning careers. They usually have no choice but to find a guy to buy them dinner, take them out on dates, drive them to work, give them a place to live. Like, conservatives will shit on women for saying that, say, oh, women use men for this and that. But, what other choice do most women have when we built our society in such a way that the path of least resistance is that path? Abby Shapiro wants to make it so that is the only path. The left wants to make it so it is a path, but certainly not the only path or the path of least resistance. And Abby Shapiro is going to try to strawman the left here into saying, the left says women don't need any man, and that women can be empowered and strong and live fulfilled lives on their own. But in reality, look at anybody. Anybody who tries to live a life without any partner is going to be lonely, and they aren't going to, feel fulfilled, and they aren't going to have kids and feel like they've achieved anything in life, and they're going to have somebody that holds them at night when they're in bed, and they're going to be lonely and sad. And she's going to try to use some basic bitch emotional arguments to and I say basic bitch isn't just basic, some basic conservative arguments to be no, actually being single as a woman is bad because you would feel lonely and you wouldn't have kids and you wouldn't accomplish motherhood, which is the greatest thing a woman can do. They genuinely believe that, by the way. They think what they quote unquote motherhood is the greatest thing a woman can do is genuinely what they believe. And I will say it's a pretty cool thing. It's pretty cool that humans can kind of, use their own body to create another human, That's pretty cool. And raising that little flesh being that you popped out into an actual person that you can actually engage with and talk to and has a personality and actually goes out to achieve their own things is also pretty impressive. It is not the most impressive thing, though. I would say that lady who led the team that took the first ever photo of a black hole's what's the term for the light emission that you can see just around the ring of the black hole? It's the Coriolis or something. There's a term for it. It's the only escapable light you can see outside of the black hole. We took a picture of it. Woman led the team of scientists that did it. I'd say she's more, the Hawking radiation emitting from it, but there's another term for it. Accretion disk? I think the term is accretion disk. Regardless, though, we took a yeah, thank you, Crick Chirp. Anyway, we took a picture of that. Woman led the team that got the photo, and it was a really big thing, and conservatives got really mad saying, well, actually, a woman didn't take the first ever photo of a black hole. She was actually just leading the team, and there were mostly men on the team. And it's but she led the team. Her face is at the forefront. She was the team leader, and she was the Rick Grimes leading the team in this operation. So if you're going to accredit one person as the face of accomplishing this, she would be the one. Yeah, regardless though, I think she's probably achieved more than the average mother has, personally, because there are also a lot of mothers out there that are pretty shit. Pretty shit. They had a baby and then they basically gave up after that. By conservative logic, they would consider the average deadbeat, alcoholic, abusive mom who just gave up after giving birth as accomplishing more than that woman who led the team that took a photo of the first ever photo of a black hole. That is what conservative logic would lead them to.
When we watch girl power movies or movies that are directed towards women, there's so many these days that if they're not a chick flick, it's a movie where a woman needs to prove that she's independent at the end. So she doesn't have any man. She's look at me. I figured it out. I don't need any man to help me find.
You know what's funny? This isn't even true. Most independent badass woman movies don't even do that. They always, like, in my experience, they always tend to have like a antagonistic, like, neckbeard incel male character that pursues the hot, powerful female character, whether it be for like some sexual means or just generally being an antagonist, like neckbeard type. And then the woman will have like a strapping, like, Chad romance interest that she'll be into, and he'll either, like, I know in Wonder Woman the Chad love interest guy dies, and so she ends up just single and independent at the end of the movie because the Chad dude she's into dies. But like, that's really common, is like, no, it's not the woman decided she's independent, it's that like something happened in the movie that made her single, but she had a romantic interest, and the movie never pushed a message of having that romantic interest made her lesser, or that she didn't need said romantic interest. Like, that, this idea that like, she doesn't need no man is so common in media is kind of ridiculous, because it's not. Like, these industries make movies and TV shows and whatnot for an audience to make money, and shipping makes money. These industries, like movie making, like, studios can't fucking resist the urge to engage in shipping bait, because it just brings in the clicks, keeps the online clicks coming.
Myself, because I'm so strong and empowered. But movies that are geared towards men that teach them lessons are like, you know what's really important? Family. You know what's really important? Your wife. Why do we do that for men, which is correct, and do the opposite for women? Like, why are we encouraging women to not look for that stability, that love, that home that will bring them happiness? I mean, I get the idea that.
So the stories that she's probably referencing right now about the most important things to men being family are probably like your average action film where, like, muscular, ripped, muscle Chad action hero goes out to kill all of the bad guys that kidnapped his family, and he's like, I love my family, I'll do anything for them, and then and it's just it's like him killing 500 people, either to avenge his family or to save his family. Like, that's probably what she's talking about, which I would probably argue is at least some part of toxic masculinity. But if she's talking about, like, I don't know, like God of War, the new God of War game, I would say that pushes a pretty positive message to men. And this is probably the most valid thing I've heard Abby Shapiro say ever. I actually can't think of a movie that I have seen, or a book, or a game, or anything like that I have seen directed at women that pushes a message mostly unrelated to womanhood, right? I've never seen a movie that was like, I don't know, maybe, actually, you know what? I think there is a good example. Turning Red. That's an example. I forgot about Turning Red. Main character of that movie is a woman, technically. She's a girl, but still a female. And her entire conflict is about, like, figuring out who she is and accepting herself. Nothing necessarily to do with being a woman, even though conservatives seem to assume the red panda thing is like an analogy for periods. It's not. It's not. Like, they made a few jokes about it, but it's not a reference to periods. Turning Red didn't address 9/11. That is true. They really should have done that.
Men are more pulled in the direction of wanting to just, like, screw around and not really be at home.
Regardless, though, I still stand by what I said. That is the most valid thing I've heard Abby Shapiro say. There are a lot of stories out there for, like, that are directed at men, such as God of War, Logan, The Walking Dead Telltale game, season 1. Like, a lot of games that are like the dadification of games type things, or movies that are like the dadification stuff, where it's like, man seeks redemption through saving family, avenging family, creating new family, and protecting said family, right? Like, that is such a common trend, The Last of Us, in media, mostly directed at men, right? Like, that is the, like, and most media meant to push a message directed at women tends to be a girl power chick flick, right? Like, who remembers Captain Marvel? Like, Captain Marvel definitely gets more shit than is probably warranted, despite how mediocre of a Marvel movie as it was. But Who remembers that scene at the end where it's the "I'm just a girl" song playing as she's like beating up the bad guys? Who else cringed? That clip basically embodies the 99% of media aimed at women that like is meant to leave that woman with a lasting message. I really haven't seen a lot of like media that doesn't try to push some kind of girl power narrative that like pushes a message to women. That is the one valid thing I've heard Abby Shapiro say.
Theoretically, like, they want to be more...
To be fair, there probably is a lot that I just don't know about, to be fair.
They're more bachelors, and that women have more of a tendency to want to be married and have children, and so maybe they're trying to make those women who haven't found that yet feel better about themselves. But don't encourage women to make those decisions. Like, what? That's stupid. That's not good. It doesn't make anyone happy. I understand that we're trying to comfort those women who have not yet found this, but by making bad decisions, you're only making it harder for yourself to find a husband and to have children and have a home life. Like, no, women are not better off by being independent. And
so what she's arguing right now is that women that have not gotten married, like, by a certain point in their life, that saying their lifestyle is okay is encouraging unhealthy living, because women pursuing a career instead of getting married and having kids is actually unhealthy and bad. Remember, guys, she is the one saying women should be forced to do this, this, and that. The left is saying women should be able to do whatever they want as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. Which political ideology sounds most like it values freedom?
And going
and
off
liberty.
without a man and not needing someone. Everybody needs a partner. Men need women, women need men. Done. Solved. The mystery of the world has been solved. So stop telling women.
I don't know, some men need men. I actually know a lot of men that need men. Listen, dude, like when you do lefty political streams, you'll meet a lot of horny gay guys, and they definitely need men. Okay, they don't need women; they need men. Okay, so sometimes men need men, sometimes women need women, and that's just the way it is. Sometimes NBs need NBs, and all the combinations in between. Sometimes there's even 3 or 4 ways where there's multiple, you can get multiple digits on this calculation.
That they are better off on their own and that they're stronger on their own. No, like, figure yourself out, but don't eschew men. Men are very good for you. They will make you better and you will make them better. Good, congratulations. Gosh.
I do. So one thing that you may notice about like the type of content that Abby Shapiro makes, and it's sort of a mask off moment from Abby Shapiro, the right believes. So the right will be very honest with what they believe about men in particular when not in the context of debating the left. So when debating against the left, conservative men will say, you feminists think every man is a sexual predator. You think every man is a future rapist or a sexual assaulter. Not all men, # not all men, yada, yada. You guys agree, right? You've seen this, I'm sure. But then you see a couple of conservative guys talking about, whether or not their daughters should be allowed to date. And all of a sudden, all men are rapists. All men are a threat. All men are future sexual assaulters and rapists. All of a sudden, they know how men think. Interesting, huh? It's almost like maybe there's a reason why they know how all men think. Conservatives believe that men, they won't admit it, but they do believe that, because they know what they are, that men are monstrous predators that if not literally kept in line by the threat of endless, unending torture and hell, would be out there murdering and raping and stealing whatever they want. That is what conservatives believe and will literally argue the natural state of man is. And that women are like the polar opposite. They're less intelligent, but they're also less violent, and they're more nurturing, and they're more, they're more passive. And so they act as sort of, men are like fire, and women are like the water that cools them down and keeps them tempered, right? And that's the idea that conservatives push. But at the core of it, it is the belief that men fundamentally suck, and that women also fundamentally suck, but definitely a lot more than men, and that the only way for you to be fulfilled is to find a woman or to find a man. depending on what gender you are. Obviously, if you're a man, you can't find a man. If you're a woman, you can't find a woman in their world. But they believe that finding a partner of the opposite sex is vital to being a fulfilled human being. They don't believe you can live a fulfilling life without having children, a wife, kids, all that bullshit, right? And while I think that would definitely be a nice part of having a well-rounded life, I do not think it is a necessary part of having a fulfilling life. Don't let conservatives judge and shame you into changing who you are and changing, like, your life for the worse, okay? Like, so many conservatives are so deathly afraid of the left bullying them into becoming better people, and yet they'll listen to conservative pundits like this shame them into living a very certain lifestyle, arguing that they'll be miserable and, in fact, immoral if they don't live the way that insert political commentator says they need to. Regardless, though, if you enjoyed this video and you want to support my channel, my videos, my streams, and my VODs, please consider liking it. It really does help out a lot. It takes half a second. Simply just hitting that thumbs up button twists YouTube's arm and basically forces them to send my videos, my segments, my content into the recommendations of new people. It helps out the channel a shit ton. And of course, if you want to see more from me online, you can also follow my social medias. I'll link down below. But don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications, and comment down below if you want to help boost my content in the algorithm a little extra. And of course, if you want to support me, a little bit more tangibly, and you've got the money for it and you don't need it for anything else, you can come to my website, xanderhall.com/live, and donate, subscribe, or gift a sub on said website to support me. You can also support me financially on YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, and Patreon. But with all that said, regardless of how you support me, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.